In Mysteries and Investigations, students read like investigators and embark on a multi-genre study into the mesmerizing world of scientific and investigative sleuthing. In Subunit 2, The Secret of the Yellow Death, students learn about epidemiology, the branch of medicine that studies the outbreak of diseases and searches for their potential cures. The main text, The Secret of the Yellow Death, a true story of medical sleuthing by Suzanne Germain, retells the true-life mission of U.S. Army scientists sent to hunt down the cause of yellow fever in early 1900s Cuba. Readers will be drawn in by the vivid and revolting descriptions of yellow fever symptoms. They will also learn about the dangerous but heroic experiments conducted by a scientific team determined to separate fact from fiction and find the real cause of the Yellow Death. Students in grade 6 are usually familiar with the idea of using evidence to support their arguments. However, this subunit may be the first time that many students will begin to think about what makes one piece of evidence stronger than another. Dr. Walter Reed's careful collection and evaluation of experiments and evidence is a great opportunity for your students to practice evaluating a claim based on the strength and credibility of the supporting evidence. Today I'm going to walk through one of the earlier lessons of this subunit. Now by this point, the students will have already read about the symptoms of yellow fever and learned the catastrophic impact the disease had on infected communities. They've also been introduced to Dr. Reed, the chief scientist, commissioned to investigate yellow fever outbreaks. Now in this lesson, students first review the text they read in the previous solo to identify the three main theories of how yellow fever was transmitted. More importantly, they unpack the author's statement. But of course, what Reed thought didn't matter, in order to consider the importance of gathering credible and replicable evidence to prove and or disprove each theory. This lesson also has an optional activity to review the definition of evidence, but also to consider the criteria that we use when we're evaluating evidence. So at this point in the lesson, students are ready to take what they've learned about assessing evidence and apply them to the different claims that describe how yellow fever is spread. So they start by rereading the paragraph. Then, in green, they highlight the details that support the theory that bacteria is the cause of the spread of yellow fever. Then they highlight in yellow the details or information that counters that claim. Now what we want to start thinking about is the strength of that evidence in terms of how strong it is in supporting or countering the claim itself. And so we asked them to think about a couple of questions before bringing them to our new app called the Evidence app. The Evidence app is a tool that helps students to identify, organize, and evaluate each piece of evidence. They determine what claim the evidence is referring to, whether it supports or counters that claim, and then how strong that piece of evidence is based on how factual, credible, or relevant it is. Then, in the testing phase, the evidence which supports plays a game of tug-of-war with the evidence that counters. The side that has the strongest support wins. Students then work in pairs to complete the process of identifying and evaluating the evidence provided in the text that support or cast doubt on the two remaining theories of yellow fever. This lesson is built to help them understand that while ranking is subjective and may vary, there are some very clear guidelines for readers to assess the credibility of evidence and information. Namely, what type of evidence am I reading? Is it a fact and data? Is it an expert opinion? Or an individual story or example? Then we want to rank how credible the information is. Is it based on fact or opinion? And how important is this information to adding support to this idea? After evaluating all the evidence, the lesson wraps up by offering students a poll to decide which claim they believe has the strongest support. And finally, in the exit ticket, students evaluate 3 specific theories of yellow fever transmission by distinguishing claims that are supported by reasons and evidence from claims that are not. After completing the readings, students can then write an essay to explain which character trait is most useful to problem-solving investigators. Through the use of a sample essay, exploration of the text, and discussion, students will complete a series of lessons to craft a well-written essay. Throughout this unit, students step into the role of the investigator, reading closely, writing carefully, and thinking critically to unlock the secret of the Yellow Death.